evening. Thanks a lot for staying with us here at CNN News 18. You're watching the biggest exclusive. I am Ridhima Bhatnagar. A con man, a Bollywood actress, gifts worth crores, radar of the investigative agencies. Well, this is not the script of a Bollywood movie, but what really played out in real life with con man Sukesh Chandrasekhar. Now, Sukesh Chandrasekhar has been accused of running a rupees 200 crore extortion racket from jail by bribing jail officials in crores. The matter came to light after Aditi Singh, the wife of former Ranbaxy promoter Shivendra Singh, lodged a complaint against Sukesh Chandrasekhar. As per sources, she paid rupees 150 crores cash in numerous tranches to the co-accused Deepak and Pradeep from Nani. Today, actor Jacqueline Fernandez, who was earlier a witness, was named as an accused by the ED in the multi-crore money laundering case against the conman Sukesh Chandrasekhar. Now, the 36-year-old actor, according to the Enforcement Directorate, received gifts over 5 crores from the conman. As per the charge sheet, Jacqueline Fernandez was aware of the extortion that was taking place. Delhi's Patiala House on the 31st of August will now decide on the point of cognizance over the fresh charge sheet. The other aspect of the scam is the sheer complicity of jail officials in Sukesh's crime. They didn't just look away, they actually actively aided Sukesh in running this extortion empire from inside prison. SIM cards, cell phones, expensive liquor, parties, glamorous visitors at odd hours. Whatever Sukesh wanted, he got, all in exchange for crores of rupees. Of course, action now has been taken. So now with Jacqueline under the ED scanner and now being named as an accused, the big question is, will many more skeletons also tumble out? So we will break down all the details of how this entire nexus was operated by conman Sukesh Chandrasekhar. But first, as we pointed out, the big takeaway from the day is of the development that has happened with Jacqueline Fernandez and the Enforcement Directorate. Let's first break down the details as far as what the charge sheet says, and this is what we're picking up by the means of sources within the Enforcement Directorate, that Jacqueline Fernandez, who was earlier a witness, has now been named an accused in the 215 crore scam as far as Sukesh Chandrasekhar is concerned. Now, this is important. What the charge sheet also points to is that Jacqueline knew exactly how things were. Chandrasekhar gave Jacqueline Fernandez gifts worth over rupees 5 crore. That means she was a recipient of the proceeds of crime. Jacqueline was aware that these gifts were bought from proceeds of crime, and she also knew as far as this entire extortion was taking place and the fact that this was a man who was behind bars. Jacqueline was aware that Sukesh Chandrasekhar was an extortionist. Remember, there have been claims, counterclaims from Jacqueline saying that I wasn't even aware of who Sukesh Chandrasekhar is, to Sukesh Chandrasekhar saying that we were actually in a relationship together. Gifts worth multiple crores, as I pointed out, were given not just to Jacqueline Fernandez but to her family as well. And that is why today the trouble was only increased as far as Jacqueline Fernandez is concerned. As I pointed out, gifts worth crores was given to Jacqueline Fernandez. Let's just break down some of those interesting details for you viewers now. Let's first begin with the luxury cars, a Maserati and a Porsche. Crores of rupees. But that's not where the luxury cars end. A Mini Cooper worth 50 lakhs was also gifted to Jacqueline Fernandez. Oddly, a horse worth 52 lakhs was also as part of this long list of gifts. 4 Persian cats, and they costed a whopping 36 lakhs. They were also gifted by Sukesh Chandrasekhar to Jacqueline Fernandez. So there's luxury cars, horse, cats, and luxury and designer bags as well. Designer bags from Gucci as well as Chanel, over 5 lakhs. That was given to Jacqueline Fernandez as well. Not to miss the luxury shoes, pair of Louis Vuitton shoes, almost costing 2 lakhs. Those were given to Jacqueline Fernandez as well. So the big question that we're now asking is, with the ED heat only increasing and Jacqueline in legal soup, the big question is, how deep does the rot really run? Let me also now introduce our guests who are joining to take this discussion forward. I have my colleague Ashish Mehrishi, who tracks developments of the Enforcement Directorate. We have the former Deputy Director of the Enforcement Directorate, Satendra Singh. We also have an actor, Nasir Abdullah. We have a lawyer, Aniket Nigam, and we also have the founder and consulting partner at Perfect Relations, Dilip Cherian. Good to have all of you on the broadcast with us. Ashish, you've been tracking this story from day one, so let's begin with you. We want to break down the nexus bit by bit for our viewers. From a witness to now an accused, where did this nexus between or the relationship between Jacqueline Fernandez and Sukesh Chandrasekhar really begin?
So, if you go into the background of the story of Sukesh Chandrasekhar, he's like 32, 33 years old. 33 years old, has been coming and going behind the bars for last 14, 15 years. There are around 19 odd cases against him, almost all for cheating and extortion. Now, as far as Jacqueline Fernandez goes, Jacqueline Fernandez basically, he has been chasing Bollywood stars for quite some time. Now, when he was in jail, in Rohini jail in Delhi, for another case, at that point in time, he basically contacted a person who was basically a lady who could basically connect people in the Bollywood. Now he basically got into the groove of Bollywood through this lady, and then they started exchanging relationship, or you can say started exchanging gifts with each other. Slowly, because he has been coming in, he has been going out of the jail for a number of years.
True.
So Jacqueline Fernandez got close to him at one point in time, and they were also even planning to get married or planning to buy a luxury house in Mumbai. But ultimately, Jacqueline Fernandez, as the charge sheet that the prosecution company that has been filed today, it very clearly indicates, my sources confirmed to me, that Jacqueline Fernandez was very much aware that this man is a cheat, an extortionist, a conman, a person who has been impersonating high-profile people like the Law Secretary of India, the Home Secretary of India, and she was enjoying all the money from the extortion racket that he was running from the jail. Now, interestingly, if you see, what has been found till now, 84 policemen have been named in a FIR that has been registered by Delhi Police, which says that 84 people were in connivance with Sukesh Chandrasekhar inside the jail premises, where he was being given benefit, and all senior people, it includes the seniors as well as the juniors in the jail who were basically giving him all the benefits. He was given a room in which he used to have,
Ashish,
he used to
we
run
just talk about
sort of
this nexus as far as where the problem was, as far as jail authorities was concerned, because there are two aspects to what we are covering today. One, of course, is the proceeds of crime which was given and which Jacqueline Fernandez was a recipient of, and the other, of course, is how this nexus played out behind bars for a man to be operating this entire scam. But I want to first bring in Satendra Singh as well. Satendra Singh, as my colleague Ashish has been pointing out all through the day, now with this case taking a new turn from a witness to an accused, how difficult will it be for Jacqueline Fernandez? क्योंकि हम जानते हैं कि अब अगर अरेस्ट हुआ तो बेल मिलना अंडर पीएमएलए will be very very difficult.
आप एकदम ठीक कह रही हैं, क्योंकि जैकलिन को एक्यूज बनाया गया है. एक्यूज का मतलब कि पीएमएलए के सेक्शन 3 में जो ऑफेंस ऑफ मनी लॉन्ड्रिंग है उसका एक्यूज बनाया गया है, क्योंकि जैकलिन ने, जैसा कि रिपोर्ट्स आ रही हैं, उनके पास प्रोसीड ऑफ क्राइम गया, उनके पोजीशन में था, उन्होंने उसको यूज किया नोइंगली, तो ये इसके लिए जो सेक्शन 3 में पीएमएलए के जो ऑफेंस की डेफिनेशन है उसमें पूरी तरह से फिट होती है. अब जब फिट हो जाती हैं तो सेक्शन 4 में पनिशमेंट है. पनिशमेंट का मतलब यदि प्रूव हो गया कोर्ट ऑफ लॉ में तो मिनिमम जो सजा है वो 3 इयर्स है, रिगरस इम्प्रिजनमेंट, दैट कैन बी एक्सटेंडेड अप टू 7 इयर्स. तो अब वो बड़ी मुश्किल में है, क्योंकि वो गवाह नहीं है, वो एक्यूज है. और जहां तक बेल की बात है, अब उनको ट्रायल कोर्ट में अपनी बेल लेनी पड़ेगी, जो कि शायद इतनी आसान नहीं हो, जैसा कि आप भी बता रही हैं.
Correct. And because of what we've heard from the Supreme Court just, a couple of weeks ago, where they've upheld, as far as the provisions of PMLA are concerned, and that's where it becomes really, really problematic, that
Yes.
if an arrest does happen, then bail is looking very, very difficult for Jacqueline Fernandez. But before we talk about what the future course of action here is, as I said when I started the show, there are two aspects to how this con even has unfolded so far. Dilip Chairan, I want to bring you in. It is baffling, for the lack of any other word, how this man who was behind bars ran this entire con with so much ease. He had all the available options at his fingertips. He wanted phones, he wanted SIM cards, he wanted expensive liquor, he wanted to meet people at odd hours. All of it was given just in return of a few crores. Isn't that a larger issue to first begin this conversation with?
Real issue is what is happening in our jails. And the kind of money we are talking about, my sources tell me, is not in the single figure crores, but in the double figure crores. And the point is that when a greatly skilled con man like Sukesh gets his hand on the kind of apparatus he had access to and the kind of privacy he had access to in jail, he was virtually able to run this empire out of jail with two levels of confidence. One, that he was protected, and two, that he couldn't be accused because technically he was in jail. So the fact is that the reason why the Jacqueline Fernandez issue is being brought to the fore is because the moment you have Bollywood attention, then the attention towards the people who are really in connivance with Sukesh become lesser players, and everybody focuses, like we are, on the Bollywood angle. So the proceeds of crime which Jacqueline Fernandez may have had access to are comparatively smaller. It is proceeds of crime, she was aware of it, and those points are valid. But the fact is that we need to make sure that the spotlight does not shift from the real co-conspirators along with Sukesh, which are the people who are running the jail.
Correct. And because we don't want to take the spotlight away from how this con actually unfolded, before I go to my other guests and we continue this discussion, we actually want to play out this report for you of how this con actually unfolded, and then we'll continue this conversation.
"32-year-old Sukesh Chandrasekhar is the protagonist of this real-life drama. A boy from a lower middle-class family in Bengaluru who conned the rich and famous and lived life king-size. A life filled with luxury cars, private jets and starlets. In and out of jail since the age of 17, he is currently a state guest in Tihar jail. This is where he pulled off his most audacious heist using just his brains, a cell phone and his extraordinary skills of impersonation. This was his prey, a desperate billionaire housewife trying every trick in the book to free her jailed husband. The husband in question, Shivendra Mohan Singh, once among the richest men in India with ownership of brands like Ranbaxy, Fortis and Religare. He and his brother are currently in jail for fraud. Singh's wife Aditi paid Chandrasekhar 215 crore rupees in all on the promise of getting them out. Another of Sukesh's victims was AMMK leader TTV Dinakaran. After Jayalalitha's death, a tussle broke out over the two-leaf symbol of the party. Dinakaran was desperate to retain it. Enter Sukesh. He posed as a middleman who had connections in the Election Commission, someone who could sway the vote in Dinakaran's favour. Dinakaran paid a 50 crore bribe to get the job done. Also in the list of Sukesh's victims is former TDP MP Sambasiva Rao. Sukesh impersonated a senior CBI official and a Home Ministry official to extract 100 crore from Rao. 17 years, 27 FIRs, countless cons, VIP victims. Sukesh, obsessed with Bollywood, is a film waiting to be made.
A film waiting to be made, exactly what I said when I started the show. I want to take in a quick word from my colleague Ashish before I go across to the other guests. Ashish, since you've been tracking this from day one, for whatever investigators that we've spoken so far, they said if we had to pinpoint one particular skill, quote unquote, as far as Sukesh Chandrasekhar is concerned, that was impersonation. And that's what we heard in the Supreme Court today as well, that a lot of people are seen as dangerous when they have AK-47s with them. But Sukesh Chandrasekhar actually became dangerous just because he had the ability to use software on a mobile phone.
So, he's a master of con. I can say that, not many people would actually know that how spoofing technology and other softwares can be used to basically manipulate your voice. So here he knew how to do it, and that is why he used certain softwares to manipulate his voice. Also, he basically used spoofing technology to basically bring it to light to the person on the other side that it's actually a real call coming from the Home Ministry or from the Law Ministry, but the real number was never visible on the screen. So here he was basically impersonating all senior officials. I have heard the communications, because there are certain recorded communications as well by the Enforcement Directorate, and it's very difficult for the other person, especially who's been a housewife like Aditi Singh. She is not a businesswoman, she's a housewife, to understand how the government works. And the way he was manipulating his voice as a law secretary or as the Home Secretary, it was, anybody could have fallen into that trap. So here, one has to realize the fact that yes, this man is actually very intelligent when it comes to conning people, and and he achieved what he wanted. But ultimately, the Enforcement Directorate was a step ahead of him, and he was finally caught with the proceeds of crime. The Enforcement Directorate has been able to track down a lot of proceeds of crime. I remember when the Enforcement Directorate searched his house. Again, that was a Benami property on the East Coast Road in Chennai. It was a luxury house. There were around 24 luxury cars which were parked there. So they have been able to track down the proceeds of crime of around more than 200 crore rupees. They have been able to track it down. And once that happens, then obviously the money goes back through the court to Aditi Singh. But ultimately, yes, one has to accept that this man is actually a master of con.
Master of con. Nazir Abdullah, I want to bring you back in now. As I said when I started the show, Sukesh's obsession with Bollywood was known for a while now. Now, doesn't it become convenient for actors or actresses like Jacqueline Fernandez, who knew exactly how things were, that this is a man who's given me luxury cars, luxury bags, is helping not just me but my family members as well, but is a con man behind bars? Doesn't it then just become just convenient from the version that what we've heard from Jacqueline Fernandez so far, that I didn't even know his real identity? Becomes quite difficult to believe, isn't it?
Before I start, I just wanted to know if I can have half the amount of the time that Ashish had, the journalist. He's had a long, like a discourse on the whole thing, so I hope I'll be allowed half the amount of time. Here is the deal. Sukesh is the culprit, the main guy, the criminal. He did the stealing, the forgeries, the etc. Jacqueline is the recipient of whatever he stole. Now, being the receiver of so-called goods that were fleeced off whoever, Jacqueline is not a culprit in my opinion, and I will give you evidence of that fact, that you are insisting as if you know that Jacqueline knew all this. That is a load of rubbish at the moment from my point of view. Please don't interrupt me. Monica, I know. I said please don't I said please don't interrupt me. I said please don't interrupt me.
I have to at least correct you factually,
Monica
because this is exactly what the ED has said in its charge sheet.
Tell me.
That is why she's been moved from a witness to an accused. So was she not a recipient of the proceeds of crime?
Okay, got it. You know better. Monica Bedi was the wife of an underworld don called Abu Salem, based out of America. She lived with him for years. She was married to him. And she obviously knew, must have, one day or the other, though the girlfriends are the last ones to find out that their husband is a criminal. Let us get that. I've seen it all over the world, and there have been films also made of it. She got away. She didn't get a jail term. She was his wife. She knew all sorts of stuff. They even got her to play a part in Big Boss as a very bright celebrity. So here is the deal. We need Mr. Sanjay Hegde, someone like that, to actually say what is involved. The gentleman from the ED seems to think, oh, this, that, and the other. And hang on a minute. I know for one thing, if she's the recipient, and of course everybody falls for the gifts, all the Bollywood actresses, you know, whoever, and she is not the accused. And there are more serious lapses on the law department. The cops are involved, dozens and dozens of them, and he's enjoying a great time. Though he's an accused, he's got cases against
Nobody
him.
is taking
And now
away
you
from
want
the
to make
fact
Jacqueline a
that there is
scapegoat.
a corruption as far as jail authorities is concerned. And if you heard me carefully when I started the show, I said there are two parts as far as this entire discussion is concerned. But I just find it extremely convenient to say that I didn't even know who this man was while I continued to enjoy the benefits as far as luxury bags and cars are concerned.
It's possible.
But let me
He
just
might
bring
have
in...
lied to her.
Let me just
no,
bring
hang
in...
on. He might have
One
lied
sec,
to her.
I want to
He
just
would
give
have
a fair
lied to
chance
her.
to the other
Hang
guests
on a minute.
as well.
He could have lied to her. How do you know? Were you friends with these guys? He could have lied to her. They all lie. These criminals lie like anything.
Okay.
That's what their lives are all about. How do you know?
Okay.
You've been told to say this,
I'm-
so you're saying this.
See,
It
that's
has
being
to be
really
proved in
unfair
the court.
because we are
I
going
don't think it will be
exactly...
proved.
We are going by exactly what the Enforcement Directorate is saying. And my colleague Ashish has been tracking this from day one, and I give him a lot of credit for whatever he's put out for us as well. But Aniket Nigam, I want to bring you in. As I said when I was discussing earlier with Satyendra Singh as well, that this becomes extremely problematic now for Jacqueline Fernandez because she's been named as an accused. And because we know that if an arrest happens, a bail will be very, very difficult. Where do you see this headed now?
Riddhima, there are two things that we must understand. Number one, initially the Enforcement Directorate did not make Jacqueline Fernandez as an accused. They made her a witness. After the investigation progressed, probably they must have realized that she was aware that what Chandrasekhar was doing and the money that she was enjoying or the gifts that she was enjoying were out of the proceeds of crime. Now, Supreme Court has clarified in that recent judgment saying that even possession of proceeds of crime is a standalone offence for which one can be prosecuted under the Money Laundering Act. And therefore, probably she is made an accused because they must have investigated and they must have got sufficient evidence with them which would show that she was aware that these are the proceeds of crime or at least what he was indulging in, and the gifts that he is buying is out of those activities that he is engaging himself into. That's number one. As far as the second aspect of bail is concerned, let me tell you that there have been umpteen number of cases where the investigation is going on by the ED, but they choose not to arrest because they feel that the concerned accused has cooperated during the investigation and they don't feel the need to arrest, and then they don't arrest and they file the charge sheet. The accused can appear before the special court, file an application under section 88 CRPC, which is a case where he will say that he or she will furnish their own personal bond and court can release them on sureties.
True.
However, if the investigating agency feels that for the purpose of investigation, the custodial interrogation is warranted, only in such scenario they would choose to effect an arrest upon an accused, and if an accused is arrested under the provisions of Money Laundering Act, section 45 kicks in, which makes it very difficult for anybody who has been charge sheeted or who has been charged with an offence of money laundering to get bail, because there are twin conditions that are to be satisfied, which twin conditions Supreme Court has said are constitutional, absolutely legal, and they will remain on the book.
Okay, so that's a crucial point that you're making, and this is where I want to bring Satyendra Singh back in the conversation. What will be that point for the ED to decide that we want to arrest this particular person? Sir, वो कौन सा point होता है ED का जब decision बनता है कि नहीं अब accused को मैं arrest करना होगा?
ये आईओ डिसाइड करता है. देखिए क्या है कि दो तीन चीजें, या तो जो एक्यूज है यदि वो इन्वेस्टिगेशन में कोऑपरेट नहीं कर रहा है तो ये भी एक बहुत बड़ा बेसिस बन जाता है उसको अरेस्ट करने का, या उसका इन्वॉल्वमेंट बहुत बड़ा है, तो ये डिसाइड आईओ करता है. ये डिसीजन जो है पर्सन टू पर्सन डिसीजन लिया जाता है. जैसा इस केस में मेरे पास रिकॉर्ड्स नहीं है कि पहले इनको विटनेस बनाया गया था, विटनेस माना गया था, अब एक्यूज माना गया. तो यहाँ थोड़ा सा डिफरेंस है कि उस इन्वेस्टिगेशन में नई चीजें मिली होंगी जिससे कि ये एक्यूज बनी है. तो अभी ये तो आईओ को डिसाइड करना है कि अरेस्ट करेंगे नहीं करेंगे, या बाद अभी उनसे कोई और एविडेंसेस की जरूरत है जिसके लिए कस्टोडियल इंट्रोगेशन की जरूरत है.
Okay.
तो वो डिसीजन जब होगा तो अरेस्ट किया.
Okay. So the tipping point will be if the ED feels that yes, this person is cooperating, we can do without an arrest. Otherwise, there could be a possible arrest as well. But Dilip Charan, I want to come back to you. And the question that I was asking Nasir Abdullah also, where he wanted to differ with me, that it becomes difficult to accept the fact that you didn't know where this money was coming from. Isn't that a logical question that anybody would want to ask when you're the recipient for almost a tune of over 5 crores?
I'm afraid that this will not stand in court. The fact that he's giving such huge and expensive gifts cannot but surprise and raise questions in anybody's mind. So to say that I wasn't aware is only trying to pretend a kind of, innocence, which actually does not exist. The quantum of money involved is too large for anyone to just lie and get away with it. Because, you see, if there are people who have the ability to give expensive gifts like this, those people are in the public eye. Here was a person who clearly has been in and out of jail and was in jail during the time of some of the gifting. So there is no doubt that anyone with half an iota of intelligence would catch on that this is not something that is kosher. There's no doubt about that.
Okay. Ashish, I want to bring you back in. Considering the fact, as I said, there have been two versions. While Sukesh Chandrasekhar has said that we were in a relationship, there were some intimate pictures that did the rounds as well. Jacqueline has said that I wasn't even aware as far as the real identity was concerned. Could you talk to us about all the properties that have been attached by the ED so far and what will happen from here on as far as Jacqueline Fernandez is concerned?
So as of now, a fixed deposit of around 7.27 crore rupees has been attached till now. This is basically in lieu of the amount of gifts or proceeds of crime that has been accepted by Jacqueline Fernandez. Now, I would like to counter the point of Mr. Abdullah, where he has been saying that there is a possibility that he was lying. There is a possibility she was lying. He was lying from the jail. But interestingly, sir, I have certain facts in the charge sheet, that the previous charge sheet that was filed, not the prosecution complaint that has been filed today, she was very much in the know. There are certain WhatsApp messages where she knows that this man is in jail. She knows from where this money was coming. She very much knew. She was flying from one location to another location where the money was paid by Sukesh Chandrasekhar when he was in jail. When his father expired, he traveled. They both traveled in a plane where the money was paid to a charter company, and this huge amount came from proceeds of crime. So here there's not one evidence. There are many evidence to show that Jacqueline Fernandez was very much in the know that this man is a regular criminal. He's a person who has been in and out of jail. 19 cases against him. He's at the age of 32. At the age of 17.
If there is that much evidence.
At the age of...
Okay, so evidence that is being put out as far as
there is that much evidence.
Nasir Abdullah, I'm giving you the final word.
If there is that much evidence, good. If there is that much evidence, fair enough. She should be penalized. She should be deported to Sri Lanka, wherever she is from, and the money should be distributed to all the poor farmers in the country and the poor people. Okay, she should go. If it is proved that it was criminal money, she should be sent away. Or jail, whatever. Do what you have to with her.
Mr.
Then
Abdullah,
okay.
this is not the process of Prevention of Money Laundering Act. The Prevention of Money Laundering Act says that you have to take
I'm giving you
my
opinion. I'm giving you my opinion. You do what you like. You do what you like. You do what you like. I know. Just do whatever. Arrest her. Throw her into the Tihar jail. I'm okay with it. I'm okay, whatever you want to do. The point is, if there is enough evidence to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that she had the criminal intent to take this
Okay.
blood money
So me
or
and you
whatever
can't
it
sit
was,
here and
this black
really,
money,
make
fine.
judgments of what really should happen. We will have to let law take its own course. But as we pointed out, this is a story that we'll keep tracking very, very closely. Would like to thank all my guests as well. It's a wrap from my side. Plain Speak with Shivani is up next.